How are you? I made it, girl. I made it.
Look at Jesus. Look at Jesus. Nothing but God. G-O-D.
Exactly. I'm like, let's get this together. Thank you so much for your patience.
Oh, no problem. So I was telling the viewers just a little bit about who you are. So I'm just going to briefly introduce myself because we may have some people joining us who are new to my brand and your brand. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then I just want you to introduce yourself and tell everyone watching what you do. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So for everyone tuning in, my name is Sanya Hudson-Payne. I am the host and producer of Sanya on Air. It is a celebrity podcast that unpacks pivotal moments and milestones from celebrities. So if you go to any streaming platform, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, find Sanya on Air and subscribe. I have amazing guests every single week. Guests that you see on television, guests that you see in film, you listen to their music, you buy their clothing. So get up and close and personal with Sanya on Air. And also I have amazing advertisement space that I'm offering on Sanya on Air. Whether or not you want to promote or advertise your brands, or if you have a major announcement, Father's Day is coming up. Why not tell your father Happy Father's Day with a billboard? I have them available not only in New York City, but in 41 cities across the United States. So I'm launching Sanya on Air Lifestyle Summer Series Conversations. And I was just giving it a kind of a test feeler at first, but this is the very first Facebook conversation. So I'm thanking you all for tuning in, and I'm going to pass this conversation so she can introduce her amazing self to Wasidah.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Wasidah Francois. I'm a full spectrum doula and a self-love specialist. I'm so happy to have this conversation. Some bits and pieces buzzing here, buzzing there. I have a fitness background, so I have more of an understanding of the male perspective, and I'm a doula, so women as well. So I always hear it. I was on the phone 2 hours today with a friend talking about women and how they are in the world and how many of us want to be wives, but do we have what it takes to be a wife? I'm like, oh God, so I get it on both ends, from the men and from the women.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Everyone's kind of struggling in this space of relationships. You reach a certain age in your life and you may look around and say, I need a partner, or damn it, I need to get rid of the one that I have. So,
yes,
I just want to talk about, some of the challenges and, some of the success stories that people go through as it relates to relationships. So let's start with the first topic. I want to ask you your opinion. How do you feel about women and men getting married in their 20s?
I think it's too early, unless it's like late 20s. And I think for me, it's like learning who you are. That takes a while to learn the foundation of who you are. What do you like? What do you not like? What ideas are in your head that really don't belong to you? Your mom tells you one thing, your auntie tells you one thing, your father tells you one thing, but the core of you and the world we live in today may not go with what you learned as a child. So you kind of got to get out here, bounce around a little bit, date a little bit, build your career. Because one of the things I'm realizing at 40 is it takes a lot. Relationships take isolation and focus on the relationship, the same as a business. So if you're in your 20s trying to build you, and then you get over here and get married, a lot of times one doesn't make it and you may resent. Whether it's now I had the marriage and children, but I really wanted a career and I never even started it. Once I started having the kids, now I just have a regular job, or vice versa.
Yeah. I'm reading one of the viewers' comments. Thank you, Robin. And I do agree that years ago, that was the norm. Girls and guys were getting married, let's say, in their early adolescent years. I'm glad that that's not the tradition nowadays, because what I found even then, they were getting married so young they didn't know each other. They didn't even know themselves. They were living unhappy lives. And I think, women started to realize that and started to kind of step away from getting married in their early 20s. I know for me, if I would have gotten married in my 20s, I would have already been divorced. I'm not the same woman that I was in my 20s that I am now. I'm very much more mature. My communication skills are much better. I feel that I can have footing and I feel more stable in a relationship as opposed to my 20s. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, just explore. And that
being married,
it doesn't mean to open up your legs for everybody. But if
exactly.
you do so, that's your business. I'm not
that's
judging.
your business.
Not judging. So
I think I learned from other cultures that they date around and they see it like lightly. And I was like, wait a minute, how come I feel like when I get a boyfriend, I have to see him as my man? We talk about marriage and babies already, right? And my other girlfriends are like, girl, no, we're dating like 3 guys. And their parents encouraged that. So for me, I realized like, oh, wait a minute, I don't need to play house. I grew up not seeing people get married but have children. And I would call it Cinderella. It felt really good in the beginning. They dated a year or two. By the second birthday party, there's no dad. It's separate birthday parties for the child. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? So I realized, like, oh, I should probably slow down. But then I also realized, too, why am I cooking someone's son hot meals every night? This is not my husband. Yeah. Why am I thinking about having children? This is not my husband. And then you hear men now say, well, women who have children are broken homes. Well, they didn't do it by themselves. So I think it's about not feeling so pressured to say, he chose me, he has a job, he's a great guy, I met him around the way. Actually getting more clear and aligned about what you want, what you need in a partner. And that means dating around. Then certain things, in my opinion, I don't want to do unless it's my husband.
Okay.
Listen, okay?
So let me ask you, when did that mind shift occur that you waited, a little bit longer to call someone your man or even want to be in a relationship? When did that happen? Was it in your early 30s, late 30s? When?
No, I think I grew up in Philly, but I went to school in Center City. So I grew up in a school that was majority of different cultures from all over, and maybe only 30% Black. So I kind of had this weird idea of, like, my kids are going to go to private school. People would hear me talk and be like, college and private school, what is wrong with her, right? And then I would date guys. And think, this guy's just for fun. Even when I was a teenager, I felt like he's just for fun because I knew I wanted to marry a certain kind of guy that I saw as a father. And so in my 20s and 30s, when I was really like, okay, now it's time to get married, I was dating multiple guys. And even if they were taking, to be honest, even if they were very serious about me, Wasidah was still looking at the menu like, well, that's on him. I'm still looking because we're not married. And I'm looking at the very serious things. And if I didn't feel like they had that, I'm like, yeah, you can call me your girlfriend. But if in a year or so, I don't see some solid foundation of building with you, no. And like, again, I still was looking. I didn't cheat on them or sleep with anyone else, but my eyes were wide open.
Yeah, my eyes have been wide open for a while.
Listen.
I call them, let's say when I'm dating, right? And I'm going to get to Robin's question in just a little bit. When I'm dating, I like to I like to have a starting lineup.
Listen.
I have a starting lineup and, I put them in the game and I see who's going to score some points. And then I have to bench someone or a few people. And then they have to work their way back up to play in the game. Years ago, that was called, a hoe. Even though there's no sex involved, in me having, guys on the bench and guys playing on the starting lineup. Years ago, that was called a hoe. I am so glad that the definition has changed, where the culture, maybe not. Do you think the culture is accepting of a woman who dates but not having sex, but dates multiple men?
I think men are uncomfortable with it. Whenever I go out on dates, men are always like, I think you're the one for me. I'm like, who's the one? Can you even say my name twice really fast? What are you talking about? And I think for them, men don't like wasting money or time. So a lot of times, even though they don't know if you're the one or not, they want you to only date them. So they're not comfortable with it, but at the same time, they can't really force it because they know, like, dating is dating. So that's when it comes down to, listen, if you have confidence in yourself and you're willing to take me out and we spend time together and get to know one another, and then it's up to me to decide, are you the one I want to be exclusive with? Right. But it takes a really confident man to, especially like at 40 and as you go up, to not be in his head with how many guys is she dating? The assumption when you're an attractive woman, unfortunately, is that every night is lobster dinner, you're getting Chanel bags and trips. It's not true. But oftentimes, as soon as you're attractive, they're like, oh, she must, I really got to lock her down, even though I don't know her that well. So for me, it goes back to the man's confidence. Like a guy said to me, my job is to take you out and you can go out with other guys, but my job is to eventually make the date so amazing and us connect that those dates flow away. And I'm the only one you want to go out with. And that's the only thing a guy can do, provide the environment for you on a date where he put in the work and the effort and see if you guys connect.
Yeah. I think, transparency and communication is very key and essential, especially during the dating, because in the dating, it's like, okay, let me get to know you and you get to know me. So me, going out on dates with multiple individuals, I have conversations with everyone. I'm just like, listen, we're in the dating, feel free to date whomever you want, but I want to make sure that this has the potential to get into something serious. So we have that conversation. So as long as they are open to, kind of, let's see what this is. And then, but it's always the intention of it could possibly become something deeper, something more personal, something more intimate. But I'm open and I have those conversations with those.
What's the reaction to that? I'm so shady, sis. I'm like, hey, don't talk about that.
What's their reaction?
Yes, are they like okay with it?
Not always. One guy told me I was trying to do the Puffy remix on him. But for the most part, I would say 95% of the guys, they're okay with that. They are very much.
I don't say anything unless it's a question. I try to leave those serious conversations. The first date, I want it to be a little bit lighter and just fun and kind of like organically may come out. But I feel as though when you say you date multiple people, what men hear is that you're just out here just dating, you're just taking and receiving and not willing to give. So even though you're clear about, hey, I'm dating, I am looking for the right one, I don't know if they always hear it as that. So I try to not create the space where they feel like we're talking all the time and I am your girlfriend, but I don't say anything. I just don't say anything unless they actually say, hey, it's been, a month or so. Are you seeing other people? Like a guy asked me, are you in any entanglements? I'm like, entanglements, bro? What are you talking about? No, because I guess for him, I wasn't giving him enough attention, but I didn't because I didn't want to create this space for him where it becomes like, oh, hey, baby, like, well, with the baby, we're not in a relationship, because that happens fast where they try to start texting and calling a lot. And to me, before you know it, it's a false sense of we now know each other well enough to have sex or put a commitment. We don't know each other that well. You don't know me that well to question me or want me to be your girlfriend. So let's slow it down.
But let me tell you why I started doing this, right? I remember going out on the very first date, and I want to talk about like what's first date etiquette. But I went out on the first date, right? And we're having a great time. We're eating. We're having cocktails. And then I just casually asked, I said, are you dating anyone? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, why am I here? And he said, because you never asked that question when we were on the phone before our first date. He said, if you would have asked that question, I would have been open and honest. I would have asked you that. And I was like, oh, wow. So like when you're even getting to know a man, you have to ask that question and you have to be open and transparent because everybody wants to know what they're getting into. Like, don't tell me on the 5th, 6th, 20th date, oh yeah, I'm dating, someone else. And by the way, I have some kids. Don't do that. So let's talk about first date etiquette. What do you think are some topics that are safe to discuss on a first date?
Topics. What do you like to do? What was your favorite vacation? I like to keep it light. And I'm a big listener because I feel as though oftentimes, and Steve Harvey says this too, that if you tell them what you like, then they give it to you for the moment. And then now that they're with you, you're going to see who they really are. So I want to know about, I may ask about their childhood. I like a lot about childhood because your childhood tells me a lot about who you are. So how you grew up, where you grew up, how close you are with your family. That's a big thing when you're thinking about something serious because you'll be interacting with that person's family. And how do they grow up? Was their mom, a Susie homemaker? Is that what they want as well? Do they now have a thing against Susie homemakers? So I love to hear about how they grew up and, how much fun they had. And I make it light, but that's what I'm really listening to because who we are as children is who we are as adults.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I kind of cringed a little bit when you mentioned Steve Harvey. I was all down for Steve Harvey. I love him and I love Family Feud, but I don't take any type of relationship advice from Steve Harvey because his past transgressions have really proved that he talks a really, really good one. But when you look at his personal life, he's not living the life that he's talking about in his books. So I
Yes.
have to get another point of reference.
I'm not a big fan of his, and I've never read the book. But I do know that it makes sense that if you tell someone, well, this is what I like, and this is how I'm looking to get married and have children, well, now men say this to me, and I'm not even looking for that. Well, you know, I'm looking to settle down. I'm like, really? Because they think I want to hear that.
Right.
So I try to say very little because I want to hear what they really are interested in, and then I can make my decision of how I want to move from there. So I might have seen like a clip of his, but I'm not a fan of a lot of these male coaches and so-called like, you know, love experts. You know, I feel like even if he would have told us the things he did in the past that were not right in the beginning, like with his first wife, I would feel better about trusting you because you would be saying, I did my first wife really dirty and I'm here and I changed as a person. Sometimes that happens. You can ride the wave with someone, doesn't mean they're not going to change their mind about who they want to be with after that wave. You can say that, but he also financially didn't leave her off well and then never really talked about it. And then she had all these sad videos. So it definitely made me question his character, yes.
So something you said, it really resonated with me. And I'm like, you know, maybe I'm going to try that. So you mentioned that, like, when you go on a first date, one of your top priorities or focus points is to just listen. That's huge for me.
Well, we're Leos. We like to talk. We're like, I want to hear what, I mean, I've had guys say some of the craziest things, like slide over to me on the date. I feel like you're the one. We should just both get offline dating now. I'm going to delete the app. And I'm thinking, what? Delete the app? I live here. You could have a key. All of this is happening on the first date, or just listening to their past relationships. I had a date a little bit ago. He had a wife that cheated twice. That's hard to recover from.
Yeah.
And if he didn't have any therapy behind that, it would be hard for me to get trust from him. Your wife cheated twice.
Right.
And of course you're like, no, I'm good now. I'm like, how much therapy did you do after that?
Yeah, I think on the first date, if they are always talking about, you know, someone cheating on them in the past, I can't. Like, I'm just gonna order one more cocktail and I'm leaving. I'm sorry, I can't.
Even if I just want to know what happened. He didn't talk about a lot, but he did say it happened. And I still was like, no therapy behind that? Oh, okay. Because I just know that had to cut deep.
Of course. And then
and now I'm going to come in. Yes, new therapist.
Like, I'll get one more cocktail for the road and I'll just be like, deuces. Like, it's just too much trauma to unpack on the first date. Like, I'm just here for the fried fish and
yes.
Yes. Actually, another question. So in your workings with men, what have they said about first dates when a woman asks, what is your career, so that they can really determine how much money they make?
Oh, when someone questions them about that?
Yeah. Do you think that's like a no-no on the first date?
I think that even before the first date is okay to be like, hey, what do you do? You know, it's just, I think in New York, unfortunately, we overly do it, right? So it's like, we want to know that before anything else. And I didn't realize until my friends kept saying, we love to go to Philly. It's so down to earth. Like, why would you go to Philly? But in Philly, we're like, hey, what's up? How are you? But in New York, it's, hey, what do you do? And sometimes, unfortunately, what I feel is that men will try to use that to lure you in and say, I do this big job, blah, blah, blah. That always bothers me. I want to know what you do, but I don't want you to brag about it. I do also notice, though, this is tricky. When we tell them what we do, they judge that.
Yes, they do. They really do. I don't know about anyone else, but I know, and I do this even like on social media, but even for my personal life. Like, if someone wants to be in my circle, like, I'm going to investigate who you are. I really am. Like, because what you tell me may not necessarily be true. So especially if a man is interested in me, like, I'm going through his social media. I'm trying to figure out, you know, how he's living day to day. you know, what his friend circle is like. Like, I need to do some investigation before you show up with your representative. Like, we're not gonna do that, because like I said, on the first day, I'm just here for the fried fish, the steamed vegetables, and a few cocktails. So.
Exactly. Listen, everyone looks at social media, but I've heard men say, depending on what you do, they judge you. So I'm a doula, and I'm also a self-love specialist, and so I do sound bath and things like that. Sometimes for them, it sounds like she's always really busy, which is not true. But I have to watch how I'm saying that. Or a woman may say, I'm the manager at my job. My friend said, I didn't want to date her because women that are managers come home with that energy. I'm like, well, how do you know that? He was unwilling to even give this woman a chance, even though she was attractive, because he felt like she was going to come home with masculine energy because she's a manager. So it's the way we're saying things and the way they hear things and the way we unfortunately judge one another too quickly.
Yeah. So next topic.
Yeah.
How do you feel about women who call their men daddy?
When are they calling him daddy? In the bedroom, that's cute, but
No, all day long. They're like, hey, daddy, can you pass me the salt? Hey, daddy, can you take off this thong? Like.
You know what? I'm not bothered by it. I mean, I would not do it. I wouldn't do it. It doesn't do anything for me. It would just kind of like, I don't want to call you daddy. I think it's even weird when a person says it in sex. I'm like, daddy? But if it works for them, you know, it's the same thing with a man wanting to be called a king.
I could do that.
There was that. I don't mind doing that. But a friend of mine calls her husband Lord.
Wait, so I just got to interject. There was a guy, his name, he told me to call him, he was Latino.
Okay.
And I pronounced it Jesus. So he was like, no. Why was I about to do a Spanish accent?
He wanted you to call him Jesus.
He wanted me to call him Jesus. And I said, no, honey, we're not doing that. Like, I only have, you know, one Lord and Savior. I'm not calling you Jesus when you know damn well that your mother named you Jesus. Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
No. Daddy to me, even when women are called mommy, I always am like, when their man is like, mommy, can you make me a plate? I'm just like, you know, I don't mind when like Spanish men do it because it's so natural for them. Even when I get my coffee in the store, they're like, hey, mommy, good morning. I'm like, oh, whatever. But when it's like my man and that's not your culture, I'm just like, And I don't want to call you daddy. And of course, I think I would be like, unless I had wine in my system and I was flowing that night. But other than that, like, no. I'm not doing it.
I know. Me either. I can't ever. I won't ever feel comfortable calling my partner daddy. That just sounds very, very strange. So I'm not doing that one. So another one that I want to talk about is dating and courting. So I don't find that men do a lot of courting nowadays. And I grew up knowing that term because my mother's side of the family lives in the South, and they always said the word courting. Make sure that a man courts you, or make sure that a boy courts you. I don't find that there's any courting nowadays. I find that men want the total package without having to do the work. What's your opinion about courting?
I'm definitely, my friends think I'm spoiled, right? They're like, it's because you're attractive. You don't know that everyone doesn't request that. I request that. And for me, because that turns me on, I can't get turned on if you're talking about, hey, you want to go half on this, or even where do you want to go? I want to be in my feminine energy. So the only thing you should be saying to me is, hey, are you allergic to anything? Do you have a preference of food? After that, it should be, are you free Friday at 7 o'clock? It's in a car. If it's not that, the first day I'll give you a pass if you want to grab drinks. Okay. After that first drink, you've already shown interest in me. Let's start the courting going. And from there, it should be you planning the dates and really putting in some effort. My last date, I will say the guy did good at that. We went to a nice restaurant. He did get flowers. He was even nice when I said to him, to me, you're moving a little fast. I'm going to have to put you in the corner and pause you, because I felt like he was like rushing it along, and I was like, he was very like, okay, I understand. I feel like I'm very interested in you, but I respect that. So I love that about him. And like I said, the date was nice and the flowers were nice, but I think he kind of hesitated on should he continue moving that way. Sometimes what happens is the nice guy doesn't get laid. And so all the guys who have did nothing say to that guy, the problem is you're too nice. You shouldn't do all that. Just touch her legs the first night. When you go out with her the second date, you don't got to take her there. Give her less. And so then that nice guy is confused about, well, why are these other guys here getting so lucky? I'm not. I should do less. And then also they want to know, am I being taken advantage of if we're going out and she's, go ahead, taken advantage of?
Something that you said, because this Wi-Fi. So did you mention something about sort of like nice guys finishing last?
Yes. I feel as though, unfortunately, sometimes they get a bad reputation and they don't get lucky. And then other men tell them, well, your problem is you should give her less. And then at the age that we're at, I think they're a little bit like, I gave it all to this one girl and then we didn't work out. So now how do I know that it's going to work out with you? My thing with that is I only date men who actually like doing things. Because if they naturally like to go out, then for them it doesn't even feel like courting. They're like, I always go out. I'm now just taking something for company. I'm actually happy she's here. That way it doesn't feel like they're doing anything that's not their nature.
Yeah. I'm really thinking about, I haven't heard that in a while, and I know that it is true to an extent that nice guys do finish last. Now that I am in my 40s, I'm finding that the nice guys are kind of finishing first. I think that when the nice guys finish last, it's when you're in your teens and early 20s, because you don't really know. You're just out there exploring, But I think that, once a boy matures into a man in his 40s, 50s, and on up, I think they're finishing first with the mature woman, because now everybody knows what they want. So I think that nice men finish last when they're much younger.
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you can be a nice guy, but maybe you're not as charismatic. So sometimes the guy who's more like hanging out and he's very charismatic, he can conversate with you easy. He can flirt with you easier. The guy who's more together may be the one you go out with, and the first date you have to carry the date. And what I mean carry is the one who's kind of like having the conversation and making him feel more comfortable opening up. Everybody doesn't have that skill or have the patience for that. So it's, girl, I went out with him. He was boring. I'm not going to go again. But the guy who has all the swag has 10 girlfriends. Yeah, he conversates with you well, but in first with you, you and 10 others. So maybe they're both nice guys, but the one who has more of the qualities you want may be more reserved. And that's common.
And I want to talk about, now switching to the dating part, going out on dates. And that's still a part of courting. I had a friend recently, she was going on her first date, and the guy left it up to her to plan the date. And what she did was she gave the guy 3 suggestions on where they could go. It was a low end, a medium, and a high end. And she let him choose. And based upon his selection, it kind of gave her an idea of what future dating and courting would be like. And I thought that was very, very interesting. So it made me want to, tell a gentleman, oh, why don't we just go for a walk in the park? But then another date, it was a high-end restaurant. Like, I like to explore all 3 realms. So when it comes to dating, do you think that that's a good strategy, like to give the guy 3 options? I
don't think so. I leave the ball in his court completely. Because also, you're taking me out. I don't want to do the work of calling. Like, it was a guy, he wanted to go out. He said, we'll go to Red Rooster in Harlem. Like, okay, awesome. I happened to realize that they didn't have any rest. I happened to call behind him, just checking. No tables were open to 9 o'clock at night. We're going this 6 o'clock. So then I had to do the work of figuring out different options for him. But I don't want to do the work. You're taking me out. So let you decide where we want to go. You can ask questions about, hey, what's your food? But you pick the restaurant, and then you can also see, like, I'm a big foodie. So I'm not coming through the Olive Garden like, oh no, we got to eat good if I have to go to the gym and work it off, right? But if that's not your thing, I'm going to want to know that.
Yeah. That was a little bit uncomfortable because once it, like you, like, I don't want to plan those things. Like, I want to sit back and then say, okay, let you lead on this. I just know, as women who are often in rooms and they're seated at the head of the table, sometimes we just want to be soft and pink.
Yes, we want to be in our feminine energy. We're like, listen, now when we're together, we're a couple. I'm like, we're going here. But we work and you're there, you're a boss, and you're masculine energy. You got to go, go, go. It's nice to lean back and allow a man to lead, and particularly in the beginning where you can really see, do you guys really have things in common? Because many men have come home and be like, she ordered all this stuff. It was so expensive because they didn't know how to say, no, I'm not interested. That's a little expensive. Or now they feel pressure to say yes. But can they keep it up? A guy took me out about a month ago, did car service, got the expensive dinner. But at the end of the night, I was like, okay, thank you so much. And he couldn't maintain that. Now you're talking about, let's grab drinks in Brooklyn. Wait a minute. What happened to the dinner with the car service, bro? That was fast. Listen, can you keep it going? It's only our second date. So again, it's about finding balance. Don't give me a whole show if that's not going to be our continuous.
I totally understand. A few years ago, I was dating someone, and it started off going to restaurants that had the white linen tablecloths. The menu didn't have prices, and then it just stopped. I was like, okay, like, what's going on? I left. I couldn't. Like, how you start should be how you finish. Like, don't lead a false lifestyle, trying to impress a woman, because she's going to be turned off when she finds out that that's not really the lifestyle that you have, and you were just putting on a front for me.
Exactly. And men get comfortable. They feel like, and now she's feeling me, and it's like, well, feeling you, I should be trying to give you more of me, and you should be trying to give me more of you, not now you're good and you're in the corner, you're not going nowhere, let me give you less. I'm not saying we can never have a cozy night at home or walk in the park, but that shouldn't be our new norm.
Yeah. So let's talk about prenups. Do you feel
I offered them. Yeah, I love them.
You didn't even let me ask the question.
Yes, go for it. You go for it, but I think they're a great idea. I think they're a good idea.
I think they're a great idea too. And, I don't look at marriage like, this is a love festival. For me, like, marriage is a business. And I don't care if you have a lot. I don't care if you have a little. Protect whatever you have. Because a prenup doesn't always have to just deal with money. A prenup can entail so many different things, but when people or women bring up the fact that they want a prenup, a lot of men look at her like she's crazy, like she's a gold digger. But it doesn't necessarily have to deal with money at all.
I offered my ex-husband a prenup because I wasn't there for him when he went to college, when he was home. He said no. And all I can say is it didn't turn out well for him. Now, I offered it. I did offer it, though. I was the woman who was saying, I'm coming in not to take things. People sometimes see prenups as like a bad luck thing. No, our love will just carry us all through the way. So I don't need a prenup, but it's like, no, you should get one. And it also can tell you what a person thinks about you. I had a friend who was dating this guy. He was like, I'll get you a 3-carat ring. When it got down to the prenup, though, he was pretty much like, you're going to leave with happiness and that it. And she was like, no, they didn't get married. They did not. He didn't want to give her anything if they end up getting a divorce. So she realized that she felt like he was selfish. Even though he was willing to get the huge ring and he was doing extremely well, when it came down to if we have children, if we get divorced, you can leave with your happiness.
Wow. So someone has a question. Hi, Rasheen. So question, if a man gave you money as opposed to what? If a man gave you money as opposed to money or higher, is your interest sustained? You're going to have to clarify that question, bro. What is that? If a man gave you a little money as opposed to more money, is your interest sustained? If a man gave you as opposed to, I don't know.
Maybe he means maybe he means does the amount of money when you do a prenup matter? Like, let's say, you know, you're like, okay, if I leave after 4 years, does it matter if he's going to give you 10,000 or 30,000?
I think it depends. It's a case by case scenario. I know we can't be, you know, having billions in the bank and then you want to draft a prenup that says I'm gonna give you an EBT card. Like that is
exactly. And I think it depends on too, like, did you have children? Did you guys move? You know, all the things you had to sacrifice maybe to be with that person and change your life. But in the lifestyle that you have, right? If you're living in the savage lifestyle, do I now have to move back to my studio apartment in the Bronx because we never got divorced? Right. Or do I also get money to restart my life?
Yeah.
So yes, the amount does matter.
Yeah, and so Rashim did clarify. So he was talking about the prices on the menu. For me, like, we're not going to go to some rat roach infested place. I'm very chill and relaxed. I'm not saying that you have to take me, you know, to a 5-star restaurant, but getting to know me, you should know what I like and try to match what I like. Like if I'm going, you know, every weekend, let's say to the plaza for brunch, but you want to take me to Papaya on 14th Street.
No.
Now we're not doing it. So it's not the price of it, it's the intention behind it for me.
Yes. And I feel like it would show we're at different levels and maybe different classes in life. If we're 40 years old, you talk about, yo, put on the fly outfit, we're going to Olive Garden. We move differently, bro. We move a little differently. And pasta Italian is not even that expensive, but we're not going to Olive Garden, so it's not personal, but we're not moving the same way.
No, we're not moving. No. One of these things just ain't right, bro.
Exactly.
So let's talk about, like, continuing the conversation, dating. How can I word this? Like, let's say where you go to socialize. If you're single, is where you go to socialize important in choosing or looking for a man?
I think so. I learned from my friends from different backgrounds to put the effort in. Like, hey, it's a difference in having that cheap cocktail drink around the way and that $15 cocktail at the nice place. It's a different situation, you know, or volunteering on Saturdays and feeding the homeless because it's good for your soul and your spirit. But also, men that are doing that are probably more kind and also have free time to volunteer. So I believe in really strategizing. When it comes to dating, it's like when I start dating, I'm like, okay, let's lay this out now of where we're going to go, what we want to wear, what we want to say, who do we want to go with? Because sometimes it's better to go single by yourself versus then your whole bunch of girlfriends. So I believe in that. A woman told me years ago, if you travel Wasidah, travel first class, because that's who you're going to meet. And so if it means that you got to sacrifice at home a little bit and tighten up, it's better to get a $10 dress and have the $14 cocktail rather than to have the $6 drink with the $50 dress on. I just had a better experience in that way.
Oh, so true. So true. You know, I'm always telling my friends, because they often call me, they're like, Sanya, you know, let's go out. I'm like, okay, you know, I don't have a problem. Where are we going? So one particular time, and I love this friend dearly, but we're always going back and forth about where she invites me. So one time I was like, okay, you know, I'll just go. So it was this club in Brooklyn. I'm going to say the name. It was a club in Brooklyn called 95 South. I had never been there. All I thought 95 South was, you know, was the highway for me to get, you know, to Florida. That's it. When I went there, the caliber of men who were there, it was disrespectful.
Oh, no.
Disrespectful. I mean, they were just bumping me. They were spilling drinks. I was like about to have an anxiety attack. And I was like, I'm not going to find I'm not looking, but
yes.
not looking, but I'm not matched with, I don't think I'm matched with anyone in here. And it's not to say, that a quality man can't be found in an establishment such as that. But traditionally, I'm not going to find an equally yoked man who's in those type of clubs. So, and then, let me see if she watches. Then, the second invitation, and I love her dearly, and she knows this, and we have this conversation. The second invitation, and I haven't answered this when she texted me, she wanted me to go on a boat ride that cost $20. I was
like, girl, no.
I have to swim to the boat. We're going to have life vests on for the whole. They may ask me to steer the boat while, the captain goes to the bathroom.
Exactly.
I'm not doing that.
If a friend, I remember years ago, I think I was in my 20s, my cousin was in her 30s, took us to this little hole in the wall in Philly. The guy came over, they were saying hi. Her and I had just lost our jobs. We were sharing a platter of food. And she said, would you guys like some? They started eating our food. I was like, she was like, I guess you're never going to hang out with me because I was born. Not that you were born. You let these men eat our food, and you're older than me. I'm the baby cousin. We're out here. We just lost our jobs. They're over here eating our food. I was like, I could not. No. There's moments when it's just about conversation with my girlfriends, and we're like, let's go to this spot and just throw whatever. But if I get done up, and we go to a place where we have to question whether or not the men are even going to offer us a drink, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's not even a conversation with me. I'm like, we can't go out again, girl. No, I'll see you around the way.
I haven't answered. I did respond by sending her other events that we can go to.
Yes.
Of our liking. But something that you mentioned, I know you're from Philadelphia, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's something about the Philadelphia men.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So I spent a lot of time over the past year in Philadelphia. I was there like maybe every month. A lot of time. The men in Philadelphia, if they see a woman that they like, they don't have a problem walking up to her, telling her. And in my opinion, like, it was respectful. I walked away. One night I was in Philly, downtown by City Hall. Mm-hmm. And I felt like an absolute queen. I called my cousins. I said, you know what? Every block that I go on, there are multiple men asking me, for my number. On one night, I just strolled around that area by myself. And I met 3 different guys and went on in one night.
Yes, I mean, it's different. It's weird. When I moved here, they were like, you met a man outside. You can't meet men outside. And I'm like, wait a minute. In Philly, we do. Like, people say, hey, how are you? You look really good today. I can take you out. And it's the norm. But here, it was this thing of he walks up to you. He must be crazy. I'm like, really? He can't say hi? So it's a different thing. Men there are very down to earth. I was there for 5 days a couple weeks ago, and I realized that the interaction of just men smiling and being like, hey, how are you? You're working out? Where are you from? And talking to me was different. It's a good and bad. They may also have a crazy girlfriend in the back end, but because Philly people in general, to me, are very passionate people. That's what I think about us, is that we get passionate.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like New Yorkers are like, I'm too busy. I'm already into my own thing. You could come and go or be replaced, right? Where there, they love harder.
They do. It is truly a brotherly love. It really is. And I'm glad that I had that reminder of, men just approaching women in a respectful way, so that when I came back home to New York City, I didn't have that residue of how guys approach women here in New York City. Guys in New York City can be very abrasive and disrespectful. I had a friend.
Really? You know what it is? The ones I don't want are abrasive, and the ones I do want are too passive. I literally got to drop napkins down in front of them like, oh, hey, because the ones that are really together tend to be more shy to me and be more like, I don't know. And the guys that I'm like, please don't talk to me. I'm like, hey, baby, hey. And you're like, no, but I don't want you. I don't want you.
Girl, they can have on one shoe, have one tooth.
Yes.
And have all
Bold.
of the confidence in the world. But I do find that men here in New York City, they are more disrespectful, and they don't approach women like they. Well, back in the day, they used to be like, "Hey, yo, ma," you know the call. And
yes. Of course.
now they don't say anything at all, and it just seems as if instead of the men liking the women, they're liking the men. Yeah, I said it. And the
Listen,
are much tighter.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And when they do walk up to you, I feel as though it's about a business card. So they walk up to you right off the back, bragging, self-conscious. Oh, hey, how are you? Send you over here. Let me give you my business card. I work here, you know. And so I'm like, okay, I work in the area at the law firm down the street. Like, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So it doesn't flow as organic enough for me, but I think it's also depending on the area, because I'm like, Harlem to me is really big energy, and the Bronx they're a little edgy, and I feel like in Brooklyn they're a little laid back, and which is nice. You know, and then you have, I feel like sometimes Caribbean men are super, they say things like, you remind me of a flower. I'm like, a flower? Because I'm American. I'm like, dude, just say hi. Cut it out here with this flower mess. But that's your culture.
I'm Caribbean, so you're going to leave
so you know.
Alone.
Don't they come across sweet? They're always nice. Like, you remind me of the moon and the stars. I'm like, with this poetry, let's just exchange these ditches right now and, like, let it go. But they come across like, you're just so beautiful. And it's just, you know, it's the way they say it that you question if it's genuine or not. But I will say, at least they tend to be gentlemen. I always say that about Caribbean men is that they are always gentlemen.
Yeah, they are always gentlemen. And I don't know if it's still true to this day. They were mostly gentlemen, you know, to get you in because a lot of them weren't circumcised.
And you weren't going to know till you were in.
I believe, and you know, in getting intimate with someone, for me, you know, when we talked about courting and dating and asking questions on the very first date, let's say when you're intimate for the very first time with someone, for me, I do a body check.
Really?
Yeah, like I want to know what I'm getting myself into.
Because so before you have the conversation?
No, I want to see it.
Really? My friend was telling me this the other day. She was like, you didn't try to touch it with this guy when I was like, no, how was I going to do that? And she was like, I always do a little touch. I'm like, no.
Yeah, sometimes
I have to know.
The touch can be misleading sometimes. So, you know, I'll just be like, you know, let me see. If it's not, you know, to my liking, I'm like, we're not gonna do that.
Listen, I may have to start that. It's been a while since I've been out there, but my friend was like, how could you not do that? And I'm like, you're right, though. It's a disappointment. I guess for me, because I'm less about size and more about the other things you're going to do. If you're going to be as romantic, are you going to just come to the show and be all selfish and be all about yourself? I need a mix of both. I don't need you to be 9 inches, but please give me foreplay of the world.
Yeah, all of that's important too. You know, I want him to definitely be romantic, but if you ain't got nothing to be romantic with, like,
what if they have it and doesn't stay together for you? That's another issue. Sometimes they get older,
if they have
and they can't last long.
If they can't last long, you mean
so they could have size and still be like 2 minutes.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you right. So I've done the body check. We become intimate and they didn't last long. Are you asking me what then?
Yes.
It's a problem. It's a problem. Let me tell you something. A woman of my age, I'm not faking anything. I'm not about to not do a body check, get into a situation with you, you know, where we're doing the vertical, you know, tango, and I gotta fake it. I'll be very, very honest and just be like, stop. I've even called a cab on someone. And
listen, I think once I did that once, I'm like, are you gonna call your Uber? Like, I was like, are you gonna call your Uber now? Like, you're gonna go? I think that only happened once. I try to really like you a lot before we go there, because if I don't like you, if we haven't dated a while and now we get here and it's not good, but I only feel like we're warm, now it's an issue. Now if I really, really like you and we've been dating. Because sometimes the first time is not the first date. You're nervous, and so, but if I really like you, I'll go again. And if I'm not really feeling you, and you came over here with 2 inches, or you didn't last long, and I don't want it all night, but you hit me with 2 minutes, I don't want to see you again. You might as well not. You might as well delete my number.
And I think even the guy, I think, you know, sometimes if you're feeling the guy a lot, have the conversation, you know, ask, you know, what happened? You know, was it you? You know, was it me? You know, you never know. So I think, you know, still communicating, you know, is important. But I want to ask you another question, because you mentioned something. You know, you said, you know, you are only intimate with guys that you have an interest in. I'm the same way. Like, I'm not out there sleeping.
Oh, let me be clear. That has not always been the case. I mean, I've had a casual, like, oh, okay, I like this person for this, but I would, like, after my divorce, I had a rebounder. And honey, he turned me a whole nother level, but he was just my rebounder. But he was everything I didn't have in other relationships and in my marriage. He was great for just that. So I didn't make it where it was like 4 or 5 guys, but this one guy was great for just that. And I was very clear about that. Unfortunately, things still got messy, because even though I may have been clear, sometimes when you're being intimate with somebody, they may still become attached to you in a way, and you're like, oh, I don't see a future with you. I only saw you as this. So I'm really a fan of deciding where you're at in your life and what you need. So whether it's right now for me, I want a serious relationship. So I don't want to entertain anything that's not serious. But when I came out of the marriage, I was rebuilding my life. I still wanted and deserved to have orgasms, but having a new man or a new husband was no.
But you said a word that resonated with me right now, orgasm.
Mm-hmm. Listen.
So how do you feel about masturbation? I'm asking this question because when you sent me, you know, that you were a self-love specialist, I'm like, oh, so she specializes in masturbation.
You know what's funny? So there was a woman who said, I was at the gym the other day in the sauna, and I said, I'm a self-love specialist. So she said to me, so are you a prostitute? And I said, what? And she said, it sounds, when you said that, I said, no, but I do believe heavily in masturbation. I think it allows for you to learn your body. And I think it also allows you not to be prisoner to a male that you may not, because when we have sex, we trade energy. So if you're just hooking up with somebody just to do this, now you picked up their energy, you gave them a part of you, especially as women. So it's important to be able to do that for yourself. And then you can also guide your partner and say, not there, but there.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's a big part of self-care.
So how do you feel about men who watch porn?
I'm not going to lie. My friends and I were talking about this the other day. I like porn. I know it's probably not the best, but I guess I like porn. I mean, I think it's just like, it helps me. Our friends and I were talking about what type of porn. There's so many different types of porn. So I think it would tell me a lot. If they like something that was a little left, I'd probably be like, the one with children, no, we can't hang out anymore. But if it was something like regular sex, you know, and I realized too, there's different types of things that happen in sex. And some people feel like it's humiliating and they don't like it. And for the partner, it may turn them on, but it's not about lack of love or lack of respect. That's a friend of mine was saying that when her husband would receive oral sex from her, she didn't like how rough he was, and she didn't like the way he touched her little head. That doesn't bother me. I mean, he was a very loving husband, but she compared it to being demeaning.
Oh, wow.
And
I used to slice an orange in half, and I would present it to my partner, and I would kind of do like a tutorial training session.
Really?
I'm gonna need you to practice on this. I'm gonna show you.
Exactly. Yes.
Grown woman-ish. I'm telling you, I'm not going to revert back to being, you know, in my early 20s and 30s. Well, I would say in my 20s, still trying to figure it out, you know. So teach your partner what you like and what you don't. I think that that's important, because too many women, you know, for years we always heard, you know, yeah, I know how to fake it. I'm not faking nothing.
No. And it's not only a gift for you. Like, that's the thing. You wouldn't give him some, just give him some. Like, no, I'm going to get me some. He needs to hook me up. But that was the thing. We grew up believing that sex was a gift for men.
You said
and
what?
Not sex was a gift for men. So if you had a good man, you were giving him sex as a gift, not really showing up thinking, I also want to enjoy this experience as well.
Yeah, so true. So true. I think, it has to be enjoyable for everyone. And if it's not, once again, have the conversation as to how you can make it more enjoyable. Watch porn, bring in some toys, whatever you want to do to kind of make it more pleasurable for you. Then,
do you like toys?
Yeah.
I had a friend pulled it out, like a new boyfriend, and I was like, oh no. Especially because I thought you were so new that it just was like, how did we get here? Like, it's just like we just started.
Not on the first day.
Second day, he showed up with, I think it was some little toy that had a remote control and peppermint lube. I'm like, oh, I'm about to be peppermint patty over here. I was like, hold up, you're enough for me. So why are we doing? And he felt like he wanted to also experience it. He just was very much, sex to him, all I have to say is he was a Scorpio. So, for them, that's a religion. It's like sex is as much of a religion. It's like getting baptized. And I take it very serious. But for me, it was mind-blowing because he really felt like it was a gift. Like it was wrapped with a bow.
Wow.
And when you see a gift, it was like jewelry. He was like, oh.
It was a dildo.
Listen, with a remote control. Like, this is for when you're here with me.
I think that's a good date as well. Going to
the sex store. Listen, I did go once with an ex, and he was so uncomfortable. But he was the first one saying to me, where's that toy? When are we going to try it out? And I'm like, well, you act like you didn't want to be there. But now that he actually he was one of the ones who never wanted to talk about sex. He liked to experience different things, but he wanted you just to feel his body out and go for it. But he never wanted to talk about it. If you brought it up, like I would send a dirty text, he would ignore. You know how something like that? I was like, oh, no, sis. This ain't it. No.
But how long?
Or I brought home porn as well.
How long did that relationship last?
He had so many other good things with him. I would say about 3 years.
Oh.
And at some point, the problem I had with him, though, was that he liked for me to be very creative with him. But when I finally spoke up and said, hey, I wish you would do A, B, and C with me,
yeah,
he could not budge. And I was like, this is not going to work out.
Yeah, I think that's a deal breaker if that level of intimacy isn't reciprocated.
Yes.
Like,
that's the thing, it's about effort. Yeah,
we're not going to be rapping on the microphone, but you don't want to nibble on this orange.
Exactly. Listen. Exactly. Especially if you're going to be in it for the long run and you want me to be all wild and frisky with you and you can receive all the things, but you don't want to come this way and even try. What do you think is going to happen? You think I'm just going to keep tolerating this?
Right. No way. So I know that you're a doula, right? Mm-hmm. So as you are helping women give birth to their babies, you find, are men allowed in the room?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you find that while you're helping women give birth that there's men in the room, or are you finding that a lot of women are doing this solo?
I find that if it's a stable couple, the husbands and fathers are there. But if it's a rocky couple, then the fathers aren't there. And unfortunately, I still see a lot of times where it's a rocky couple. We weren't together. He really wanted me to have the baby anyway. So now he's not there. But if it's a solid couple, then the dad wants to be there. But it's so sad to me when I see that, because as a woman who's never birthed a baby, seeing that woman deliver, I was like, Mom, why would you have sex again after me, girl? Were you crazy? Because that is serious. And to do it without the person who helped you conceive, to me, is like mind-blowing. But you still have it, whereas though you got pregnant, but you guys aren't together like that. And so now he's not there, and they just it stresses them out, usually through the whole pregnancy as well. Because the communication and the way they're being supported, they ultimately want the dad to be there, but for whatever reason, he's touch and go.
Okay, so let's do one more topic. So I know that a lot of times, I'm really thinking about why the dynamics of Black love has changed and shifted. Like you can't even define it anymore. And I think that we just place so many obstacles and restraints and constraints on a typical relationship instead of exploring other things that other nationalities explore. So let's just talk about dating your friend's ex.
Dating your friend's ex. Okay, yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because I know, once again, like, I was about to call them something else. I know, like, white people, they don't have a problem doing that because they really see it as a business. Like, it didn't work for me. Let me see if it worked for you. In the Black culture, that seems to be taboo. How do you feel about dating your friend's ex?
I think it's funny because one of my friend's exes reached out to me online dating, and I hated him for her. He had never met me. So I was like, dude, I never liked you for her, for not me at all. I think even if you told me it was okay, I would question if it really was okay. Because let's say they dated and he wasn't good to her for that whole year, and now he's with me and it's a different, he's flowers and candies, and now we're getting married. But if, let's say, they dated maybe years ago, and it was like, hey, we dated, but we didn't live together, or, it wasn't like that, maybe, but I have such hard boundaries around that for me, it probably wouldn't work. It probably just would make me feel too uncomfortable, and I would just feel too much as though I'm losing integrity for myself.
Because I find men, they don't have a problem doing that at all. They'll definitely...
Don't believe that.
Really?
Men are super petty. I feel like they are super. It's funny because there was a guy who liked me, who had someone, and we were in the space for his friends. And I was like, I don't care. I'll make up with my other friends. And my friend was like, no, Wasidah, he will throw dirt on your name. That's how we are as men. And I've seen it. Whereas though they sometimes are worse than us, they just don't say it. And the anger or pain is directed to you, but not to their friends. So they can't say to their friends maybe like, oh, dude, you're not right. But they'll turn around with you and be like, she was always a little bit out there anyway. I wasn't really feeling her like that. That's why I didn't stick with her. So now they'll drag you. So I think they feel it.
Yeah, as you were talking, I'm like, I can kind of see that. Recently, I was at a funeral, and I ran into an ex, and when I tell you, he rolled his eyes like his name was Margaret, like he was a little female, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, why did he roll his eyes at me? And this was the second time that I had seen him, and then I remembered, I was like, oh, I know why, because I dated his friend.
How did you meet? So how long ago? How?
It's like 20 years, like a 20-year difference. Like, it don't count. It don't count.
Were they still really close friends or no?
Yeah.
They were still close friends. Yes. Listen, I feel like 20 years separate, it doesn't count. 20 years is a long time to let it pass. What did someone say they wouldn't do?
No, I'm reading the comment from Rashid. He said, why you gotta drag my mama into this? He's crazy.
20 years is a long time, though.
Yeah, and that's why, I gave it a chance, because I was like, it was 20 years ago. Like, we were kids. That don't count, But, the friend that I was dating, we weren't even in a monogamous relationship. Like, we were dating and seeing other people.
Got it.
So yeah.
It was just like, you guys were just hanging out. It wasn't like we got married and had a baby. It was just
right.
like, we kick it. Yes.
Right. So I think, if time has elapsed and the two friends are comfortable with it, I just don't see the problem with it. If it didn't work for me, it might work for you. If it didn't work for you, it might work for me. And like I said, I'm doing these things in this 40-something space because I probably wouldn't have done that in my 20s because, you know, it was all about the code.
Yes. Yeah. But I feel like, you know, ultimately, like my ex-husband had a lot of nice guy friends. So if he had, but they weren't all close. Like he went to college with them. He might have worked with them, you know, but they weren't close. So if one of them came my way, I'm going to go for mine because ultimately I have to be happy, right? If he was that close with your friend, he wouldn't even be trying this.
Right.
So, you know, all the guys that I met with me were great guys. Why would I sit it out? He would be upset, but guess what? I can't worry about that. If he felt that way, he should have did more to keep me as a wife. So
true.
You
I had a question, but I don't know if I want to ask it.
Sure. Go for it.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Because this is like a grown conversation. Okay. So, when two grown adults are intimate, do you think that the first time a woman is intimate with a guy, that it is too soon to rap on the mic?
No, and this is a conversation I have a lot because I'm always questioning. So after my rebounder was really spicy when it came to that area. So I became like super like, wow, this is what the kids out here doing. Where have I been at? I didn't do this on my wedding night. Okay, right? I pretty much was like, my new man is going to send him a thank you card. Like, thank you, bro. You really taught her some things, right? And my question is, I was always saying to my guys, do you do everything the first time? I think at 40, it's not like the guy's thinking, well, I guess she doesn't do this. I can't now at 40 and have been married say, this is my first time. I don't do this for everybody.
Right.
You know I have already. You're not the first, right? So I kind of go all out. Like when it comes to sex, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh.
I want to do all the things with you. I want to go all the way there. Because obviously I feel that either maybe it's because I want to do that and it turns me on, or I feel that way about you.
Interesting.
And if you're going to judge me, then okay.
Right. But, you know, that happens, you know, especially for women. You know, you just want to be uninhibited. You just want to be true to yourself. You enter into, you know, the intimacy of a relationship, and they're like, oh, she a hoe. She done probably did this 50 million times. But you're right. You know, if you are a person or a woman of a certain age, you damn right I've done this before. Like, I'm not new to this.
I think men felt that way. I think nowadays they don't feel that way as much. I think when we were younger, it was definitely like, oh, wow, where's she been hanging out at? She's doing, you know, she got her knee pads on like, hey, this is what I do daily. So then, but now that we're older, I think it's expected. It's just a matter of how, you know, how they interpret things sexually. Some men feel like that's for this type of woman. Like my ex-husband was the kind of man who at least came across to me as very uncomfortable doing anything to left that is with his wife. So if it was made with someone else, he'd be like, okay, but when I sent the dirty text or say, hey, let's watch porn, it was like,
wow.
I was like,
Yeah. So how do you feel about inviting other people in your bed with your partner?
I was curious about it in my 20s. Like, this must be like, it's 3 of you in there? Oh, wow. And my friend was like, it's not that exciting. What happens is somebody gets stuffed in the corner and is lonely and doesn't get played with. And I've had couples invite me. And I was totally like, hey, a couple invited me out. And it was like, can I hang out with my husband and I? I'm like, okay, cool, girl. And it was her birthday.
Wow.
And at the end of the night, she was like, can Wasidah come home with us? And I'm like, which Wasidah? Like, you know, and her husband was like, if she wants to. And this is back when I was so young. I didn't think Black people did that. Like, I really thought that was something you heard about on TV, other cultures. I think for me, it's a little too much. I think to me, actually, the guy who did the toy was very honest about his first marriage was an open marriage. And they did those things all the time. But he also was very clear about it's not something that I need, but that was a life I lived. So I've had men tell me that I'm in an open relationship. We go to sex clubs all the time. And I'm just like, really? I don't think I would be intimidated by it. But I just feel like I'm not enough, or is it, I also question germs. You know, when you're younger, you're like, let's do it. I mean, I had the audacity to go to a whole sex club. I didn't have sex, but I didn't think it was real. So I was like, sex clubs aren't real. Girl, shut up. This is not true. When I was like, people ain't having sex. They're wild. Like, I was like,
yeah, they are very much real. But you know, it's so you know, amazing, and women do this all the time. When I asked you about, you know, inviting someone else into your bed with your partner, why did you automatically assume that it would be another female? Why is it that a woman can't bring another man into her bed?
the only time I've heard that be okay, and it was very interesting, a guy, past coworker of mine said, oh, I heard you got divorced. And I'm like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm like, yeah. He's like, me too. I'm like, hey, what have you been up to? I got divorced and I'm now sleeping with men and women at the same time. So I've only heard about men bringing men in when they also want to be with the man. That would totally, I have nothing against people living their lives the way they want.
The men, the men aren't doing anything to each other. The men, both men are just there to please that one woman.
Yes, I haven't. Now, I will say, when I went to the club that night, as young as I was, I remember seeing this woman and all these men were all over her, loving her. She was like a goddess. I was like, look at her. I mean, it was totally opposite of what you see in porn, which is this like torn apart woman with all these men passing her around. It was this woman just laying back like, hey, I'm the queen. So I think very few men would be okay with that.
That's true. That's true.
I think if you even said that to a man, he would be like, his ego would blow.
Yeah, they'd have that response like, I'm not doing that. But that was my response to, if a man ever asked me, you know, would you be open to bringing another woman? And I'm like, well, would you be open to having another man? And then it changes. The interest is now lost. And I'm like, well, don't ask me to do something if you aren't willing to do the same thing. Yes. But I've seen that type of situation at a sex club where a woman was being serviced by all of these men, and it didn't look like, you know, like a gangbang type of thing. It was very sensual, and I was just like, wow, I had never seen that before.
Me either. I was in shock. I was like, no, I wonder if a guy would do the swinger thing. That's different, because then that's just a trade-off. But that still would take a very secure couple. My friend knows a couple like that when his wife actually has a whole boyfriend. And she's like, I'm hanging out with so-and-so tonight, and they're cool because their thing is, we're married. It's been 20 years. We do well together as a business, as a marriage, but we have other interests sometimes, and we're okay with that. And I think the respect along with it, integrity, allows for everyone to be happy.
Yeah, I think
very different than cheating.
I think that's so dope. So we're going to wrap up this conversation, but I just have one final question for you, right? Sure. So now that you are a woman in your early 40s, what is one thing that you've learned about sex that you wish you would have known in your 20s?
To listen to my body and listen to my partner's body. I like sex for me is a service, and sometimes I still have sex from that perspective of like, this is tonight I'm turned on by servicing you, and that made me massages and all the things, and I don't want you to try to do all this with me. But when I was younger, everything I did was very much about what I think he will enjoy. And also realizing too, men fall in love with trust and loyalty. So you can do all the tricks in the world and it still won't attract a man of quality to be with you. It's not the weapon that we think it is. So I think that's the thing. If I listen to my body, what I need, and then his body as well. Like I said, the partner who was really shy, I was his bee's knee sexually because I just listened to what, you know, and paid attention. So, you know, when you touch someone here and they're like, or they're like, wow. And we never had a conversation about sex.
I like that answer. I like it. Wasidah, this has been social media platform. So we're going to talk offline, but thank you so much. So
thank you so much for having me.
Tell everyone how they can follow you and where. So
because I have a difficult name, everything is my first name, from my website to social media handles. So it's Wasidah, Wasidah, and that's so far as my website, as well as Instagram and Facebook, Wasidah Francois.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll talk really soon about scheduling something else.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much and have a beautiful night. Thank you everyone for watching. Peace and blessings.
Take care.
Take care.
Interesting conversation. I didn't say too much. That was going to get me in trouble. But it was just a very honest conversation amongst two women. I was really trying in this Facebook Live not to have, I told you I wear shorts, very short shorts. But I think it was a much needed type of conversations. I'm always, the work that I do as a woman in media, as a journalist, I'm always filtering through different social media platforms. And people often allude to these type of conversations, but they're not really having it. And if they are having the conversation, it is, kind of oversaturated in comedy and made up stories. I just wanted two women to come together, one who's a specialist, one who enjoys it, and for us to just have a conversation. And I'm glad that you all have joined us. Please feel free to share this Facebook Live, post it on your page. And thank you for tuning in to Sanya on Air Summer Lifestyle Conversations. I'm going to continue having them, so I have some amazing guests lined up. So if you want to have a conversation with me, hit me up, and then, maybe I'll give you an opportunity to join me on my social media platforms. So I know some of you are often asking, can I come on your show? Oftentimes it's strictly through television executives, the network, the talent themselves, celebrity publicists. And that's how I get my guests on Sanya on Air. But I do want to make sure that people who are interested in media or who have interesting perspectives, I kind of just want to give them a platform. It's my way of giving back. Thank you so much. I'm about to take all of this off, and I'm going to go walk by the water and unpack this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless.